Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world right now. And welcome to episode 35 of International Expansion Explained. My guest this afternoon is Fredrik Ståhl, who is an experienced sales manager in the drinks industry with a background in sales, key account management, and also category management. He's got a lot of experience in grocery retail, but also in digital marketing, with a focus on business development and relationships. So his focus, like mine, is also very much on those long-term results. And I know that he's really passionate about building trust and identifying those opportunities that are great for both sides and turning those into mutual success. Outside of work, I have learned he's a keen hobby chef with a lot of interest in food and, of course, drink. And I also happen to know that you're a scuba diver. Fredrik, thank you for joining
Yeah.
me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Catherine. I've been looking forward for this chat for quite some time. I know you had one episode with my wife
Yes.
back in the days. So yeah, I've been looking forward to this. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And maybe somebody from LinkedIn could drop us just a hi or yes, we can see you in the chat, just so that we have at least the confirmation that we are truly live on LinkedIn, because I don't have my phone too close at hand. And so I don't want to. Yes, it says here Catherine Reed's live event. So hopefully we are genuinely live.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Um, let's start out. I mean, at the beginning, I always like to ask people how it is that you got into international business and ended up where you are now, because I think that sales, for most people, it's not one of those things that you aged 7 in primary school when the teacher said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" International sales is not the thing that any of us said, for sure.
Definitely not. Many other professions, but not in international sales. It was never my ambition at that age.
Okay, we have a fan, so thank you, Sylvia, for letting us know. So tell us a little bit, how did you come to get into international sales, and what was it that made you stay?
Well, okay, we're gonna try to make a long story short. I have a background as a elite hockey player. I was supposed to be an NHL pro. This was my main ambition. I was dead sure this was gonna happen. So I am by heart very competitive. And as we all know, international sales is quite so. Um, I knew that I wanted to study at the university after senior high school. So my main goal after a failed hockey career was I wanted to go into the stock market to be a stockbroker. But I was a bit unsure about high stress level, high paced, etc. So I met with a consultant at my dad's job who said, well, if you want to know if you can actually handle the stress, you should try working at McDonald's. So said and done. The same day I applied for a job at the local McDonald's restaurant and started working the same afternoon and ended up staying for 12 years.
Wow.
So this is my background, and then I moved on to retail. This was by chance, but I knew that I love to be in a social environment. I love people, love building relationships, and nurture them and see where it can go. So my first experience was within the meat industry, mainly the domestic market,
Okay.
but I stayed there for 4 or 5 years, and working as a category manager and also a sales manager. Then I ended up at ICA because I love numbers. So I was working as a price manager for some time. Me and 3 screens like this, and all of this data that needs to be processed. But realized, I miss this, the pulse,
The
the
people.
social, the people. Absolutely. So I started working with a company called Galatea, which is one of the biggest importers of drinks in Sweden. And I was aiming for, taking care of the retail market, which is in Sweden, since we have the monopoly, it's non-alcoholic or low alcoholic, up to 3.5%. And I was the only one working with retail at Galatea. So my CEO said, "Well, you are a bit of an odd bird, so you will have to chip in, be part brand manager, part key account manager, just so get the ropes. What is retail all about?" And this is how I started in international sales, because I was working very close to our brand managers, since they mainly focused on alcoholic beverages. And then we had brands like Fever Tree, Fentimans, etc. That also, the big bulk of the sales were supposed to come from retail. So this is how I started, and since 2018, this is where I have spent my days, and I love the international aspect, the cultural differences, the complexity of it, and really building the relationships as
Yeah.
we spoke about.
I think that is, if there's one, let's say, common thread that runs through almost all of these discussions that I have, is that all of us who are working in the international business field in some way, we all love the relationships that you get the
Yeah.
opportunity to build, and those kind of s- weird and wonderful cultural encounters that you can have that arise sometimes in the most unexpected places, don't they? So, yeah, it's always fun.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's. I have a fun anecdote when we were launching a UK um, mixer brand, and I managed to, in the retail you have like 3 ECR windows when you can actually launch new products in Sweden,
Mhm.
um, and it was so fun because I managed to squeeze this launch in between 2 windows, which is very rare. And so early December it was, and I said to the manufacturer, nothing can go wrong, and I mean nothing, because I actually put my head on a platter here and pulled a couple of favors. So, and then I got the reply, "Wow, not to worry. It's this. We have the entire month." And then I realized that now we are in trouble, because half of December is holidays.
Yeah.
So we had 7 SKUs, but we managed to launch 6 of them. We had 1 delay, but this is the funny thing about little cultural differences. Not to worry. Then I realized that that could also mean that the house is on fire.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. Maybe you could give us a little bit to start out. You've already mentioned that, and I think that a lot of people are aware that in Sweden, alcohol is monopoly business.
yeah, it is.
And I think that that goes with a tender process,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
it is a tender-based process,
Yeah.
and you have the fixed assortment, you have order assortment, limited time assortment. So it is kind of a jungle.
Yeah. So maybe you could give us a little bit of a picture how the drinks market across the Nordics is structured, because I think that there are quite a lot of differences between the markets, and often those are underestimated by people who tend to lump the markets together as being pretty much one
Yeah.
and the same, which I've never seen, but yeah, people do.
Well, if you look at the Nordics, we have Sweden, Norway, and Finland. Uh, Here we have actually the monopoly system. And in Sweden, you're allowed to sell up to 3.5% in normal retail stores. In
Mhm.
Finland, you have 5%. So it's a small difference. But these 3 countries are pretty much alike. The one who stands out is Denmark, who doesn't have a monopoly system. So you can um, you can buy whatever alcohol beverages you want in normal retail shops. And this is quite fun as well, and interesting to see how this affects Number one, the price points. Number two, the assortment. I think that we have, looking in Sweden, we have tens of thousands of SKUs on the monopoly. So it's a very, very wide range. We have one of the highest alcohol taxes on the planet. I think Norway is the one that actually have higher taxes. So it can be up to 30 to 50% of the price is actually VAT or alcohol taxes. So with that said, Denmark, it's more accessible. It is cheaper. And as I said, you can buy alcohol pretty much everywhere. It is interesting as well that looking at what the Danish people drink, it's very wine and beer based, and it is the country in the Nordics that consumes most alcohol, and the only one that doesn't have a monopoly.
It's interesting. But it's also the one that has the most affordable alcohol, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
So looking at this, looking at the monopoly as such, what you need to understand, there are no shortcuts. They're extremely square. They have a fixed margin, so there's no dealing and wheeling about prices, more or less. It's they send out the tender and say that this is what we're looking for, maybe a new liquor that's supposed to taste of chocolate or whatever.
Yeah.
This is the type of package we want on it. This is the alcohol percent, the volume in the bottle. This is what it needs to cost. So you more or less get the blueprint, and you just start ticking, can I actually meet the monopoly in all these different areas? If you can, you will send in you will actually send in samples, and you will start the process. And this is, as I said, it's very formal, very precise, and this is also why we actually have the monopoly from a European Union perspective. This is one of the USPs that we say, okay, it is very controlled. It's all about the public health, and it's very hard to buy alcohol if you're under 20 in Sweden. This is where the limit is on the monopoly. So we have a couple of things that justifies us having the monopoly towards the European Union, who I think would prefer if we just put it in the bin.
Yeah, I suppose it goes against a lot of the free movement of
Yeah,
trade and goods, doesn't it? That it's quite
yeah.
difficult to bring those points together. But I mean, as far as I know, because I've also discussed this with Sylvia a couple of times, then if you are applying to have a product listed within the monopoly, there's also a lot of paperwork to fill out, isn't there?
It is, but it's also, as long as when you are an approved supplier of the monopoly, it is very self-explanatory. It is just a very, very big machine where everything needs to be put in the right way. We have something similar in retail as well with Valido and QLab. When you have all the measurements, everything under the sun, and everything needs to be correct. One error and you're out.
Yeah. I actually know something similar from retail in Latvia, that working
Mm,
with Rimi in the past
yeah,
also used to be very much like that, that they were very bureaucratic in the way that they approached
very.
new listings, and you had to have the dimensions of everything down
Mm,
to the last millimeter had to be really perfect and correct, and it's a big administrative headache if you're not used to that kind of an
yeah. No,
approach.
when I was working at Galatea, we had a girl there, Lucy, who helped with everything of this, and I still remember she was always running around with a ruler in her hand, and making sure that everything is just 100% correct. So if you're that type of person that things that you understand this, and you also can see, I don't know, the beauty in it. As soon as you just got used to it, it is I think it's a very nice system, but there are it can be a tricky from the get-go, but as soon as you adjust to it, it's a good system.
And so if you're working with low and no if alcohol products for the retail market,
Yeah.
how, let's say, what are the consumer trends in those kind of areas in the last couple of years? Because I know that, for example, I know that in the UK, there's been this huge uprise of like low and no alcohol and these really nice, sophisticated brands that have been either mixers but also
Yeah.
standalone drinks. Whereas, for example, in Austria, I mean, I think around here, aside from the pure juice kind of market, yes, you can find things like kombucha, but there's no choice. You might go into a bar and they have one brand of kombucha, but there's nothing else that's really like a more sophisticated no alcohol option, to be honest.
Looking in Sweden, if we just look at the no or low area, what has been driving the sales is primarily beer, non-alcohol beer. We have many talented, craft breweries who actually produces fantastic beer. You have Sigtuna Sankt Erik, where I used to work. You have the Danish Mikkeler, and many more. These have been driving this business area, and now we see a big increase in wines. We have the Swedish brand Oddbird, who is performing really well. The wines are getting better and better. So I think these two, we have a few also non-alcoholic spirits, Gnista and more, who does good things as well. But what we could see when I was most active in the business was the lower the alcohol was on the original product, the easier it is to make it a really good non-alcoholic version of it. So these are one of the traditional areas that's coming. Then we also have kombucha. We have the fermented tea, and not to mention the functional drinks. This is exploding. Energy and functional drinks. I think the only thing is many of them have a very high rate of sugar in it, and this is a constant debate in the Nordics, to increase a sugar tax. So we'll see where this goes. But I think that looking at the shelves today, the functional drinks that doesn't contain that much sugar, with every vitamin under the sun in it, and this is something that is growing on an extreme pace.
Okay. I mean, of course, energy drinks are something that here in Austria, obviously, there's one very strong market leader, and at least if you're looking in the kind of bars and you're looking in the HoReCa space, there's one very strong local market leader, and then there's lots of copies of that, of course. But it's interesting to see how these kind of health and wellness additional functionalities are accepted across different geographies, because I mean, I spend a lot of my time focusing on Asia, where I would say that people are often looking for things that help with the skin or that help with they're looking for things that help rejuvenation after the gym and so on. It's quite interesting to see how that has become such a strong category alongside the more traditional kind of energy drinks and things that you would think of.
I agree, and this is looking at the more from a broader perspective, we have a very clear health trend, and we see this health trend is very much driven by Gen Z, millennials, where you see this increasing year by year. I read a Swedish survey just recently where 75% of people between 15 and 24 actually says, we are saying no to alcohol. We don't need it to have fun. I don't know if they take other substances, but this is actually boosting the market, and I think it's far from saturated. It just keeps growing. So we have domestic producers, of course, but I think there's still shelf meters to expand with new labels.
And do you think, or do you see things also coming in with, for example, adaptogens or these, what are they called, nootropics and so on, things like I mean, I've seen quite a few people on
Yeah.
socials recently drinking lion's mane and reishi, mushrooms, and all kinds of other things, where some of them I've looked at and thought, "Oh, that looks like swamp. It doesn't look like it should taste good." But
No, I think that this is coming here as well. We have strong regulations what we can put in a can or in food. So as long as you just have a very clear picture of this is what it contains, then it's very transparent in the Nordics. What is allowed and what is not. So I can only see this market grow from what I'm reading and seeing.
I think it's a very interesting market, and I guess the Nordics generally are an attractive market for many exporting brands simply because they're seen as being very health conscious, very let's say
Yeah,
clean living,
yeah,
if you
yeah.
like, with the exception of liking alcohol, but you know, the the Nordics have that reputation of having very nice, clean environment that they take care of,
That's true.
and also having purchasing power, of course. People look at it and they don't always realize what's in the actual full value chain to bring something to the shelf, and they think that maybe the Nordics would be a good opportunity for them to have some good margins and so on without necessarily really having researched it.
It is, yeah, we have in general really good purchasing power, but since it has been a free market for open market for a long time, there's also lots of competition. So if you're looking at how a value chain could be, you see the producer normally have around 20-25% margin, the importer 10 to 15. Looking at the shops, then you have 15 to 25%. And one of the reasons why the shops needs to have so high margins is that we actually have the average income in the Nordics is extremely high compared to other markets. I think you don't need to go far to see that you have almost 50% of the salaries. So yeah, you can look at it and definitely see that there are purchasing power, but then again, it's very costly to live here as well. So
Yeah.
and I think we are being more and more careful where we put our money, because the last couple of years has hit us pretty hard as well. But I think I can understand why it's a attractive market to be in, and we are in many ways early adopters, and the health trend is something that resonates very well with us in the Nordics.
Yeah, I think it makes it very interesting. So for any brands who are looking to enter into the Nordics, what would you say that distributors are typically looking for in a brand? If I was coming to you with a brand of drinks that I'm looking to enter into the market, and at the moment, I'm not really picky about which country I enter into. I'm just looking to bring in, for example, some kind of non-alcohol. Let's leave it in the no
Yeah,
alcohol
yeah.
range. But what kind of what kind of attributes and what kind of collaboration would be would a distributor be typically looking for, ideally?
If you're coming here as a brand that you want to launch in the Nordics, I would say one of the first boxes to tick is we need to have some kind of um, brand support. You need to be able to educate when it comes to what is it, why is this good, why does it deserve its place in the market. It's also very important to be extremely transparent, especially when it comes to everything from minimum order quantities to exactly what does the result sheet look like, who makes money where. This is extremely important if you want
Mhm.
to gain trust in Sweden or in the rest of the Nordics. It's very transparent. You also need to show that this is what we are willing to invest, no matter if it's in money or personal resources, hours, to make sure that we actually can give our sales reps the absolute best opportunities there is to make this work on the market. So you also need to think a bit, depending on the product, which kind of distributor do you want? Do you want to go more Horeca based, hotels,
Yeah.
etc., or do you want to go to the monopoly, no matter if it's alcohol or non-alcohol, or is it
Mhm.
retail? Because you have different distributors who are differently strong in different fields. So I think you need to do your homework and to see who would fit our brand the best, both in how they cover the market, but also try to get an idea how well it resonates with your brand, because this is also very important to understand.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned this kind of transparent price calculation, because I think that a lot of brands, at least some of the ones that I've worked with recently, who are mostly FMCG
Yeah,
rather than drinks specifically, but for them it's not so typical. They're not so used to this idea of having quite an open calculation. They're very concerned when you say to them, "Well, do you even know what your importer is earning? Um, do you have an agreement how much they should be investing into
mm,
marketing? If you've said they can have a higher margin, so because of tariffs maybe that they can have a higher margin, you'll give them a lower price and they invest into marketing. You have to know if they're actually doing that or not and how much
yeah,
they're investing.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
You're 100%,
it's
100% with you there, Catherine. Uh, and it all comes back to being honest, transparent. You need to show that you're not you're not here just maybe to try the waters. You actually have a 3 to 5 year old long plan. You mean you're serious when you come here, and when we sit down by the table, it's more, why not just be open and honest and sincere? This is what it looks like, because normally in a Swedish meeting it would be, I really want to know everything because I want you to succeed, because if you succeed, I succeed. But if I don't have the full picture, you're kind of you're making my conditions worse. Um,
yeah, It makes your life difficult, doesn't it? It makes it hard for
very
you
much.
to earn money and for both. I mean, at the end of the day, if a distributor can't see, like, if they can't see what does it bring for me, this
Mm,
collaboration in terms of money, in terms of, I don't know, prestige on the shelf, or in terms of
mm,
weight, as it were, like importance. If you have, I mean, you mentioned some names earlier that are in the market. If you have a brand like Fentimans, that's a well-known brand across the whole of Europe, that's going to give you a certain negotiating weight with retail or with
Definitely.
HoReCa, compared to a startup that you're their first point of contact in their international expansion. It's a different starting point, isn't it? You're in a
Yeah,
different negotiating position.
definitely 100%. Uh, I think that, yeah, as I mentioned, I worked with Fentimans, and I had a fun anecdote. One of the biggest retailers in Sweden that I was negotiating with, and I still remember I have been working with him for three years, and this was how long it took, more or less, for me to gain that trust from him. And when we sat down, he just said this: "Okay, you know how it works. We are not playing ping pong here. Now, this is what I need. I will give you this listing on in these concepts, uh, these many SKUs. This is what I want, but this is what I need." And
Oh,
since at that time I had a good idea how what the spreadsheet looked like, we could actually reach an agreement pretty fast. Uh, but if I hadn't known what I known about uh, that brand I was representing, then I could never have been this fast paced in the negotiation, and then we would probably have missed uh, that ECR window. So
yeah.
it's especially a Swede or a Norwegian will always struggle with this. Why can't you just say it as it is? Do we need to sit here and play ping pong for 3 or 4 weeks? No, this is,
Tell
yeah,
me your best offer.
yeah,
Give me your best offer. Genuinely give me
and,
your best offer, not as a
yeah,
negotiating
and this can
tactic.
also be, doesn't have to be, that you are the lowest in price. There are so many other qualities they are
No.
looking for as well. So just, I can't push this enough, the transparency, and show that
Mhm.
I can trust you, and I will show you that you can trust me. Uh, it's
This is such an important
it is.
cultural question, isn't it? That let's say that in the Nordics, that people are typically rather, if I say rather direct, I don't mean that in, it's often taken to be quite rude, but I it's not in a rude way, it's just in a very open, like you said,
Mm,
open, transparent, just tell me like it is. It doesn't have to be emotional, it's just very calm. If you can do A, tell me you can do A, but don't promise me pink unicorns and then you just deliver, I don't know, gray orange
yeah.
juice or something like this. I mean, you have to also be able to show that you are trustworthy and not just
Mm.
give trust
And
to people.
this is extremely important to have in mind when you want to launch a product or a brand in this market, that just tell it as it is. And many Swedes also, or from the Nordics, have a very good memory. So you can we are living very much from this, fool me once, uh, yeah,
Okay.
shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. uh, and if I'm sitting representing a brand, and I go to, say, one ICA, Coop, Axfood, and somehow I'll try to trick them and say that I succeed with this once, and then I will maybe get caught, and then I have burnt that bridge. It's like, okay, why the next time I try to get a meeting, it's like, why should we meet? I can't, you looked me in the eyes.
Can't trust you.
You looked me in
Yeah.
the eyes and said that this is the case, and you bloody well knew that it wasn't. How can we do business? It's doesn't work that way. So I think that no matter the numbers, or if we look at alcohol taxes, that it's monopoly based, or this, I think, is one of the most important takeaways, that it is so extremely important.
Mhm. And are distributors typically looking for exclusive agreements, or do they have more flexible portfolios? Like you mentioned that obviously that some distribution companies are more focused on food service or on HoReCa, and others are more focused on the monopoly, and others
Yeah.
again for retail. Would it be typical to have different distributors for those channels, or is it more typical to have one exclusive distributor and you decide what is your main focus?
I would definitely say that exclusiveness is something that is more common. Looking at when I was working with Galatea, we had retail, we had HoReCa, we had the monopoly. But then, of course, you have companies that specializes in different fields. So, but maybe this suits you better. Maybe this is where you are on your journey right now, as a brand. You want to, go after the HoReCa, get, lighthouse accounts, to just put that brand awareness and visibility on the market. And then, okay, in a couple of years, maybe we are ready to launch in retail, because normally first you build the brand from HoReCa. Uh, this is
Yeah,
where
especially for
this is where
drinks,
the
yeah.
trend starts.
It's
But same with foods. This is where the trend starts, and then you're ready for probably a more exclusive retailers. And then the longer you are in the market and the more stable you are, the more you can, go in a broader sense to the rest of the market. So much is depending on where you are today, and
yeah.
if you are already a well-established brand internationally, maybe this is when you go to a bigger distributor like Galatea, Arvid Nordqvist, etc. Because you want to, launch broad. You want to go in all different directions. But if you are, I don't know, a startup company, maybe, then I would definitely also have a look at the smaller importers or distributors, and this is very important as well, because the big ones get lots of questions about launching products. I think I easily could have 3-4 per month at Galatea, and then, so what we're
Okay.
looking at, okay, is it even worth to try to launch this? What is the ROI on this one? So normally,
Do they even have does that company even have the strength to lift, like, if you make them retail listings, are they able to even
yeah,
reliably fulfill them?
yeah,
I mean, that's gonna be the question
yeah,
you ask,
most
isn't it,
most
also?
definitely. And in many cases, the answer was no. And then we could just say, oh, very sorry, this is timing isn't right, or we don't think that your brand is at this level in its maturation. I think that you need to have a realistic view also on your business, on your brand. What is what do you what could we actually do here? And again, we had the earlier example, where we failed with one SKU, and this is also, and we're back at this, with being trustworthy. If we have a an agreement that this is the forecast and this is what we are aiming to sell. We need to have a very solid and stable route to market. You can't fail with production. You need to have your logistics in order. You can't, if I order 4 containers, you need to send them actually to Sweden. You can't send them to, put the wrong label on and send them to Ukraine or something. It needs to
Yeah.
be so. This
You need
is,
to be professional about it. You can't
yeah,
just be treating it like a hobby, more or less, which
no.
some people do.
It happens, but fortunately enough, the ones I had the opportunity to work with, most of them have been very professional. So,
That's good.
but this is also when working for a Swedish distributor, you have quite some due diligence to do.
Yeah.
You need to be sure that we are right for each other. And
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a little bit like even if it's not necessarily for life, it's a relationship that you enter into
mm,
for at least for the medium term, isn't it? Because both sides have
definitely.
to invest so much time and energy and money into making it succeed. So it's not something that you want to do just for 1 year and then say that didn't work, let's go. I mean,
No, I think that if we go into business together, I know that I'm in it for for the long run. I'm going to do everything I can to, with all the energy and resources we have, to make sure that this will be a fortunate uh, and a good launch. But if I need to know that the same is from the other part. So, and
yeah,
as you said, it's more a marathon than a sprint.
definitely. And even if you know that companies change over time and maybe the relationship is not going to be for 20 years, maybe it's going to be for 10 years. You don't know at
Oh,
today's point, but you have to set out as if you're going to be a long-term cooperation partner, and you have to if you don't have that level of trust in the beginning, you probably never will do, realistically
true,
speaking.
true, true.
Um,
It's like when if you compare it to a marriage, you can't be 50% married. Either you are or you're not.
yeah.
Uh, this is also very Nordic, black and white.
Yeah. True. Or I mean, because I came from the baby food and infant formula industry, so the example we used to say was you can't be 50% pregnant, you
Yeah,
know? You
same there.
yeah, you have to you have to be in or not. And I'm just a little bit curious, are there distribution companies who or are there brands who are looking for like one distributor who deals with the whole of the Nordics? Or is that not typical? Because I would never have it's not something that I've worked with. The same with the Baltics, for example. I know that it's possible, but I've always found it easier to work with one market, one partner, because then you really have those there are cultural differences between Sweden and Finland and
Yeah,
Norway, and there are certainly differences to
yeah.
Denmark. I mean, not just the system.
Looking at the Nordics, I, I can imagine going with one distributor for Sweden and Norway. We're very alike.
Mhm.
I wouldn't do the same. I think not Denmark, maybe Finland. I know a couple of distributors who take care of all 3 of these countries, but especially going into the Baltics, I would say it's good to have a local distributor, the boots on the ground, who actually know the ropes. So this is, if you're not a gigantic distributor, I think it would be a mistake to go with too many markets on one.
Yeah. And I often tell brands that if I'm consulting for them that they shouldn't give somebody too much at one time. You can always add later on if you realize that they're doing if you start out with somebody as a distribution partner for Sweden, for example, and you realize they're doing a fantastic job for you in
Yeah,
Sweden, and they come to you and say, look, we have a daughter company in Norway. We also do great distribution in Norway. You can always decide to add that on, but it's very hard to take it away without ruining the whole
Yeah,
relationship.
I agree.
So yeah. I mean, we are coming a little bit to the end of our time. I was going to ask you, what would be one piece of advice that you would give a drinks brand founder who's looking to break into the Nordics for 2025? What would be your very top?
My,
We've talked about research and we've talked about cultural questions. What would you say is very most important point?
to have an idea which part of the market do you want to penetrate? Is it a monopoly, or is it HoReCa, or is it retail? After this, find a distributor that matches your needs and wishes in this, because it's not always that the largest one is the right fit. It could very well be a smaller one. And yeah, if you looking to do this, please reach out. It's I think it's very important to have basic understanding of the market and where you want to go.
Yeah. And it's also important that the chemistry is right, isn't it, with your distribution partner? I mean, it sounds a little bit trite, or it's very easy to say it, but at the end of the day, if you sign a contract with a distribution partner and every time that you feel like you ought to go and visit that guy, you're just thinking, I don't want to have, oh, I can't bear the idea of having lunch with him, or I can't bear the idea of having dinner with him, then probably one of you is in the wrong place, right? I mean, it's business is always done between people. It doesn't matter whether it's Sweden or Zimbabwe. It's at the end of the day, the culture changes, but people are people, and you have to find the right fit for you as a
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
cool. Like I said, we are pretty much at the end of our session today, because otherwise I think if I start on more topics, we're going to go on for like all afternoon. As far as I know, you are at the moment open to new job offers. Should
Yeah,
anybody be looking for a country manager, a sales director, anything along those lines for a
yeah.
drinks brand
You
in the
definitely did your
company?
homework. Yeah, this is. I am. I'm longing to get back to the food and drinks industry. It's where I come from, and I think this is where I belong, and since it's my passion, this is where I also produces the best results. So
Yeah. No, I think it's also important to be that for sales guys also, if you're not passionate about what you do and who you work with, then again, it's
it
not
will
going to be
shine
a success, is it?
through.
Anyway, does anybody who is listening have any questions? Because we haven't got any questions in the chat, but if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask them, or forever hold your peace, as the saying goes. Okay, I'm not seeing anything, but I will say thank you to those of you who've been watching and who've taken the time out of your afternoon or out of your day to listen to us. And thank you, Fredrik, for taking also the time out of your afternoon to join me today. It's been
Thank
a
you so
real
much
pleasure
for
to
having me,
chat.
Catherine, and thanks to all of you guys that's been listening.
Thank you.